Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today I'm continuing on the topic of photo organization, specifically getting into a real-time system of how I organize my photos month to month, as well as some of the fun photo projects that I've been working on now that I have a system and a way of organizing my photos, some of what that's allowed me to do. Before I get into today's topic, a reminder that if you have not tried out our time-saving meal prep meal plans, they are a great way to give yourself a system and process for meals. So today I'm talking about system and processes for my photos, which is maybe that's a stretch, but I think it's really in line with the values we have at Prep Dish in terms of how we approach mealtime with intentionality. So if you want to try out those meal plans, you can text the number 33777, the word meal prep, all one word, for a free 1-week meal plan. Or you can go to prepdish.com/MPM and get a 2-week free trial. Again, prepdish.com/MPM. These are all linked in the show notes. Okay, so if you've not listened to last week's episode on photo organization and how I used Jen from Unhurried Life, she has a system, a very specific system for organizing photos, both historically and in the present. I talked last week about her system for looking at your photos, both digitally and hard copy, and organizing those. So go back and listen to that. And today I'm going to talk about once I had that system in place, the system I use now month to month to organize all of my photos and have them in a place where they're all saved, they're all backed up. They're not just on my phone. So if I lose my phone, I don't have to worry that I lose all of my photos. And I know there is iCloud, but this is kind of even like a step beyond that because there's a few places where they're stored. So I'm going to go into details on that process as well as what that process has allowed me to do in terms of projects for my family and, for using these photos in kind of in a fun way that I actually can go back and look at them. I think one of the questions, and I talked about this a little bit last week, but one of the questions that comes up for me when I'm doing organization of my photos is why am I taking all these photos? What am I doing with them? And if I have 1,000 photos from 2021, what am I going to do with those? And when am I going to go back and look at those? And who's going to look at those? So this project has really helped to answer some of those questions for me and made me realize that photos are really important for me in terms of being a historian for my family and having the documentation and the memories kind of there to show, my kids and myself and my family, but also realizing that it is also important to me to be very present with my family, especially my kids, not have my phone out at all times, or most of the time, not have a phone on me when I'm with my kids, and really being present with them. And then balancing that with capturing the photos and especially when there are milestone events or, special company that's visiting and moments that I do want to capture and just kind of like figuring out, okay, let's get the picture, let's capture it, and then kind of be done with that and kind of put that into the system and start the process. So I hope that all is making sense, maybe resonating a little bit. So the process now that I use, and so this is really outlined. So like I said on last week's episode, Jen has created this course. I'm going to kind of go through top level, like what I do. But if you want to know like all the nitty gritty, like the software you use, what it looks like, actually see screenshots of like doing this month to month, then I would recommend checking out her course because she goes into like all of the details there. She also has some, podcast episodes and things like that that talk about her system in more detail as well. But basically the process that I'm using now is month to month, like every month on the first of the month. And I know this So setting up habits, I had a whole series on habits last summer, but on the first of the month, I already am doing payables for Prep Dish. So it's like, I know on the first of the month, I have to look at all the payables. I also know the first of the month, I have to do all my photos. So what I'll go and do is I'll pull up all of the photos on my phone from that past month. I will actually and I don't know if she recommends doing this, but I like to do this. I will go through and try and delete like half of them. And sometimes in the moment, especially if I'm taking a bunch of like a specific thing, I will sometimes then like on a car ride, if my husband's driving, obviously I'm not doing it when I'm driving, but like on a car ride, or if I have a few minutes, I'll like pull them up and like try and delete most of them. She says you don't have to, because with digital storage, you've got plenty of space. But for me, it's like, if there's one with someone's eyes closed, just like delete those right away. So part of my monthly process is like pulling up all the photos. I try and delete like half of them, especially like I'll like take a look at a screenshot if I don't need, either like put it into Trello or, a task or something like that, or delete it. Sometimes I'll do a screenshot in the moment and then, later I don't need it. So I'll do a quick cleanup, and I try and like keep that brief. I'm not spending like an hour doing it, but I am spending probably 15 minutes doing a quick cleanup. So the only photos that I'm transferring are ones that I really want to hold on to. So, I transfer those into a specific folder. One is for videos, one is for photos. So basically the way the organization looks like is I have everything organized by year and month. And then if there's like a specific milestone, like a birthday or a trip, then that might be a separate folder. And then each month also has a call out of albums. And so for example, from January, I'd put all the January photos, and then I'd pull out like maybe the top 20 photos that I would call album photos. And this is helpful for projects that I'll get to in a minute, but anything that I think I might want to use for a photo album or project, I'll put into there. So those are kind of like the better photos. So I pull those out and call those out and have those in a separate folder. So this happens every month. I will admit sometimes with the album thing, I may batch it and do 2 or 3 months at a time. And then as part of this process, I do my husband's photos as well, which has been interesting because, we definitely take photos of different things. Like he is doing house projects. And so sometimes I'll, definitely like skip some of the photos that he has of like house projects and different things like that. But I also am pulling some photos from his phone and videos as well, so that I'm capturing all of the photos that we have. And I do have a folder on my computer where I store photos that need to be saved. So if there's a photo that someone sends me that's not, sometimes I'll get photos like through email or something like that of the kids or from Ivan's school or something like that I want to save. And so I'll just have a folder of like, hey, this needs to be uploaded. So when I do my upload, I can go to that folder and add anything in there as well. So each month I'm kind of doing this upload, putting them on this external hard drive. So there is a place that they are all saved that is not my phone, that's not the cloud. It's like physically there. And then my backup system that I use is Dropbox. In the course, she goes through different places, like cloud places where you can store and ways to do that. And I will say I sometimes am questioning, because I know that iPhone is so great of like having search features and ways of finding photos that you kind of lose when I save on that external hard drive. But at the end of the day, like I have years of photos from the past year, for my life that are not iPhone photos. And so knowing that they're all there and in the same system, and I can kind of call out year to year and month to month if there's like a special trip or something like that I want to access. So just having them all there saved in the same filing system, labeling them the same way. Like, and this is something she goes into in the course, is like, she even has a template of like, here's the folder and each month, and you use that as a template and you copy it year to year. So I just really like having that and knowing that they're all there, saved in a consistent way. And if I need to go dig and find a photo, and I'm just like envisioning like, my boys turn 18 and I want to go and like find photos from the past 18 years, I can easily do that and know that like the top photos are called out, the trips are called out, different family members, like all those sort of things. So this is sort of the month-to-month process that I'm doing. And then the goal that I'm working towards, not just the 18-year goal that I just mentioned, but the kind of year-to-year goal is creating photo books for the boys. Part of her system includes printing out photos and putting those into a photo box. So each month, printing out, 5 to 10 photos or 2 or 3, however many you want to do, and then putting those in like this photo box. And I really like that, because what happens is I have one for each of my kids. And so say in 2021, they're going to have 20 or 30 photos. And then each year for the next, 18 years, they'll have 20 to 30 photos from each year. And then when they turn 18, they'll have a box that has kind of the top photos from the past 18 years that they can sort through that are actually physical photos. And it's not into a book. Like that's actually just like, I don't know if you'd call it loose leaf, but like loose photos that they can kind of go through. And that's fun, to be able to sort through. And as part of like when I was doing this project, I went to visit my nieces and nephew and I went back and I'd kind of printed some of those photos. So when I went to visit them, we could just kind of, browse through photos over the years of like us together. So I do think it's fun to have physically printed photos for different occasions or when you have different people visiting. So the printed photos is a piece of it. And then 2 projects, actually kind of a few specific projects. I'm not going to number right now because there's a few projects that I'm working on. One is having a photo book each year from that year. So this is kind of like the family album and putting that together. That's something that I'm still in the process of doing and like going back in time and doing. So that's one of the like ongoing goals that I'm still working on. A second project that I am actively doing, and I did for the first time last year in April, is I have decided each year to do a calendar for each of the grandparents. And at first I was going to do this as a Christmas gift and like kind of do like January through December. But I realized November, a really hectic time of year. We're already trying to do Christmas cards. I wouldn't be able to take that on. I thought Mother's Day, it's a lot more doable, right? Like in April of each year, I can start working, March of each year, start working on the calendars, putting them together. And when I'm doing those monthly updates, I'm already thinking, okay, what do I want for the calendar? When the grandparents are visiting, I'm already thinking, let me get a photo for the calendar. So when I have, the June month, I can make sure to include our trip to their house. So those calendars are kind of one of the big goals each year is putting those together. And that's in the back of my mind, as well as the photo album. Another project that I did. So my first son, Ivan, is adopted. And so I put together a book. So that was one of the original motivation behind getting all my photos together is I wanted to put together a really good book explaining that to him. And then, I'm still in the process of playing catch up. So if you heard last week's episode, getting the historical photos together, for me, that took several months. That took about a year to kind of get everything organized and together because I really wanted to do it right. I think if you're really on it and you had a lot of time, you could probably knock it out in a month, like kind of just chip away like a few hours here and there. But for me, it just really did take, and it's because I have little kids at home and that's just kind of what I could do. But I was determined to get it done over the course of last year. So getting those historical photos organized. And now I'm working on moving forward, like getting, so I've gotten that initial book and then now getting the baby books together. And I'm sure if you're a mom, I'm not the only one out there that I'm like, I want to get these baby books together. And my kids are 18 months and 3 years old. So I'm not too far behind, but I definitely playing a little bit of catch up. But the goal is this year is to get caught up on those books. And then moving forward, I can just year to year do a book right alongside when I'm doing the Mother's Day calendars and kind of have this process where it's like I have these books that I'm creating and they really come together pretty easily. Another book that I did do last year was we had no pair that was with us for 2 years. And so I as I was going through and sorting the photos, I had that in the back of my mind as I wanted to create a photo album for her. And I know that was really great because when she went back home to South Africa, she shared that with friends and family and she could really show like, hey, here's what I did over the 2 years. Here's all the photos and here's all, the trips that we took or the activities we did. So, there's just different times in life that I want to kind of capture there. And our honeymoon is another one that's on the back burner of like someday project once I get the kids' album. So as you can see, this process is very much still a work in progress for me. But it is something that it's like this important but not urgent project where I kind of continue to chip away. And to me, having the framework through this POP system that is, Jen's system that I'll link in the show notes, her course, like that really helped me to establish the framework and feel confident that I'm like capturing all the photos, all of the I guess you could say, data and all the photos are there. They're all saved so that these projects can happen. Even if they're not happening immediately, I am kind of chipping away at them. So I hope that you've enjoyed these past 2 episodes. Again, definitely not meal prep or recipe related directly, but I know as our, the photos, like the world is just changing in how we take photos and store them and what we do with them, and trying to keep up with that and capture for my family, these moments in time and being this historian for my family. It's something that's really important to me, and that I've tried to really put a lot of time and effort into making sure that I'm doing that in the way that I want to, and still enjoying those moments with my family. So hopefully this is resonating with some of you out there. If you've made it through both of these episodes, I would love to hear from you. Was this topic interesting? Would you like to hear updates as, I continue to make progress, or if I have other kind of ahas on ways to do this? Let me know. I am at Prep Dish on Instagram, so you can reach out there. I'm also on the Prep Dish Facebook group. And even if you're not a Prep Dish subscriber, you are welcome to join that group. So you can always look that up. We welcome anyone in that group. But if you have thoughts on this episode, or just, thoughts on other topics or things you'd like to hear about, whether that's meal prep or recipe related, or just kind of like anything organization, system, batching type topics, I'm also open to talking about those, because I think those are just so in line with the values that we have at Prep Dish. So that's all I have for today. If you would like to try the Prep Dish meal plans, I will link all of those in the show notes to try a free trial or get a free week. And again, I will link Jen. It's Jen from The Unhurried Life. That's the system I've used. I know there's other systems out there, but that would be kind of my number one recommendation if you want to dive into an overhaul or a big system of organizing photos, is find someone that's created something out there. And then, you'll, for me, I've tweaked it along the way, but you definitely, there's people that have done this. So find some sort of structure to kind of copy to start, and then figure out what works for you. That's all I have for this week. I will be back again next week with another episode.